Just you wait. So, just as a mild thought experiment, all I'm going to do is we're going to start from close guard. You're going to do the atypical posturing. Yeah. And you're going to try and remain postured for as long as you can. You're going to stay in close guard, no other guards required. And your partner's just going to stand up. And you're going to try and stop them from posture. So the partner's going to start here, I'm going to start here. I'm going to do the normal jiu-jitsu posture. And they're going to stand up and I'm going to try and stop them. Okay? And try and remain postured for as long as you can. Off you go. Right, time. Whoa. So, pretty much across the board there, no one stayed postured. So, I knew that was going to happen. Yeah. So you go to the normal jiu-jitsu posture, and then I say, right, person on the floor, stand up. And most of you either had the other person just stand up or completely abandoned everything to do with posture and went, no! And shut me down. Yeah. To which I then think, how much of jiu-jitsu is then based upon this kind of mutual understanding that you don't get up? Why in the world does this exist if there's a world where he can just stand up? As in, it's almost like we've reached a mutual understanding, like, right, I'm going to stay here with my hands on you, you're going to stay there, and all you can do is pull me down. We've hit that moment in jiu-jitsu that this can be taught and not get laughed out of the room. It's nonsensical. So that's kind of like where I want to start this off, is just having that idea in the back of your head that you can just stand up. You are fine to just stand up. The way I kind of liken it to is, imagine you've arrived late to the cinema to watch a James Bond film. And you've arrived 2 minutes late and half the fight scene's already ended. Because the beginning of every Bond film is a fight scene. That's how I interpret jiu-jitsu when one of us starts on our back. It's like we come 2 minutes into the fight and the takedown's already happened. That's why one person's already on their back. It doesn't make any other sense otherwise. And so we interpret it that way, that I've just put you on the floor, you can just stand up on me. Does that make sense? We only start like this just because, I don't know, we want to limit injuries or we want to play certain games or whatever. But 1 minute of fight has already happened. We just weren't there. It was like we arrived late and he's already ended up on his ass. So he has every right at all times just to stand up on me. It is my job to keep him on the ground. This makes no sense, because this in no way keeps him on the floor. Does that make sense? So, okay, we're going to look at, weirdly, some ideas for the defensive postures, but with this in mind, that if they're not on my hips, or even if they are, I'm just going to stand up. So the first part to interpret this then is, we're going to play another drill. I think it's a long ago Preet showed me this one. It might have been Preet, it might have been Charles, I can't remember. We're going to start with one, both people on their ass. Pardon? This one. You're going to start in this position here, so you've got one in, one out of each. We're going to hold on to each other's ankles, and you're going to have a race to stand up. You can let go of each other's ankles, by the way. I can't stand up without letting go of his ankles. But the second I let go of his ankles, he's going to stand up. So it's a game of brinksmanship at this point. Does that make sense? So we're going to start, hold on to each other's ankles, and we're going to try and race each other to standing. I don't want him to stand. I want to keep him on the floor. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Off you go. It's a race. Who can stand up? Just one in, one out. I'll show again if you want. Copy. So one in, both feet on the floor, onto each other's ankles. Okay? And stand up.
Ja, also du kannst beide festhalten.
Alright, time. Now put a bit of context into it. You can have play again. So, for me to stand up, I need to be able to move on my bottom leg. I need to stand up on the leg that's on the floor. So, if Naki was to take away this leg, he was to hold this one in the air, it doesn't change anything. I can still stand up. But if he takes away my bottom leg, I now can't get up unless I change, and now I have a bottom leg again. Does that make sense? So you only ever stand up on the bottom leg. If the bottom leg's removed from you, there's no standing up. So when you play this game here, if I go to one side, I can let go of this leg now, because you can't stand up. If I held on to this leg and let go of this one, he's just going to go up on me. But as soon as I change sides, I can now change hands. Because if he tries to stand up now, he can't. The second he releases my bottom leg, I can stand up. That then becomes the game. So right now, we're both fucked. Neither of us can stand up once our hips are kind of equal. But if we want to be able to stand up, we go to one side. Whoever goes, so we'll play, let's see what happens. Bollocks. Make sense? Yeah. Off you go. Cool. Next part then. Now I've got that out of the way. For a sweep to happen, this will all make sense eventually. You have one person on the floor, their little legs pointing upright, and you have one person on top with their little legs pointing down, and you rotate 180 degrees. So now the person that was on top is on the floor, the person who's on the floor is now on top. Does that make sense? So it seems really obvious. I'm pointing out the obvious here. This is what a sweep is. So there has to be a 180 degree rotation for both parties. For a rotation to happen, I've got to go over my bottom leg. So if I sweep Naki, like a scissor sweep for example, he gets a bottom leg, I've got a bottom leg, he then rotates over his bottom leg, I rotate over mine. Make sense? If our bottom legs get interrupted, the whole thing falls apart. So, for example, if I sweep Nak and he lifts up my bottom leg, but even if he stays on the floor, I can't get on top. I need to be able to move over my bottom leg and get underneath myself. Does that make sense? Same as if he pulls his bottom leg out once I've hit the sweep, there is no sweep. I need to be able to get hold of his bottom leg and pull it and make him rotate. So both parties have to do this. So there isn't this kind of, again, weirdly mutual understanding that a sweep just happens and I get on top. There's still, even in that like halfway moment when we're both lying on the floor lovingly, that as soon as we're here, I've got to get over the top of my bottom leg. Because even if he holds onto my top leg, like we just saw, it doesn't matter. I can still get up. If he fucks with my bottom leg, I ain't getting up. Does that make sense? Same as if I swept him and held onto his top leg, he can still get up. I need to be able to grab hold of his bottom leg and maul him over. Does that make sense? So, one person on the floor, you're just going to do a basic scissor sweep to here, and then you're going to have a race to see who gets on top first. So he's going to pull his bottom leg out, I'm going to have to pull my bottom leg out. Does that make sense? And see who gets there first. Off you go. So start from that moment, go 3, 2, 1, go! So again, how much of jiu-jitsu is based upon the fact that it's almost a mutual agreement that I'm just going to roll over and lie on my back for you and play guard for a bit. When, as you just saw, it's really easy to pull your bottom leg free and not get swept. So this is something we've started to adopt in our gym over the past few months, and the second that this came in, it went really miserable in the gym. Like no one wants to play in guard anymore because it's pretty much impossible that you ever go come back on top. This is going to sound, again, really stupid, almost bizarrely obvious, but this is something that Christian Graugot said years ago at one of the camps that, I think it was the exact camp that I met pre. Again, stupidly obvious, whoever's hips are highest is the person on top. Seems stupid, yes. As if you imagine like an axis, so there's my y-axis, there's my x-axis. Whoever's hips are highest in relation to the y-axis is the person on top. Seems like common sense. So as long as I never let Naki's hips higher than mine, I will always win, because the person on top has a natural advantage. So even if Naki, so go to like a scissor sweep. Even if Naki hits me with a sweep, as long as I keep my hips higher above his and I heist my bottom leg out, so try and fight your way on top, so hit me with a sweep, go. Right, go on, bully me over, bully me over, bully me over. As long as my hips stay above his, I win. I will always be the person on top as long as I never let his hips higher than mine. Does that make sense? So that's all I'm ever thinking about now. If I enter into someone's guard, okay, I can get leg locks and shit like that. But no matter how many sweeps he hits me, so half foot five, whatever you want to do, go. I'm going on top. I'll always win. As long as I never let my hips rotate, I pull my bottom leg out and I keep my hips higher than his. Make sense? Yep. So now, you're not going to play submissions or anything like that. You're just going to try and sweep the other person and let yourself get swept. So get stuck in sweeps repeatedly. So you can bail yourself out. So half butterfly, butterfly, scissor, whatever you want to do. And just fight to stay on top. Person on the bottom, you're going to have to get better. Like, hit sweeps, go! Fuck's sake. Make sense? Off you go. Just keep the idea in your head, my hips will remain above yours. And I'll always stay arse to the sky. Make sense? No submissions, just sweeps. Sweeps and wrestling. Difficult? The second we started bringing this in the gym, like, it wasn't like it was like a new technique I had to say to everyone. It was literally just be on top, and all of a sudden, every roll became a fight to the death. Because now no one allows himself to get swept. No one allows himself just to lie in guard like that first roll. Like, in what universe does posturing in guard make any sense when the other person can just stand up? Same as all these sweeps. How many times have you been swept when you could have just brought your bottom leg out and stood up? You just accepted the sweep because it was the jiu-jitsu thing to do. And that's pretty much how it devolved in the gym to now. It's just wrestling, as in you unbalance them with a bit of sweeping, and then it just becomes frantic wrestling to try and put them on their ass because no one accepts bottom position anymore. And like I said, it wasn't necessarily a technical change. Everyone had it in them. Everyone knew. Like, it's not like it's a complicated thing to say be on your feet and on your knees with your groin facing the floor. It's not complicated, but it was a mindset change about not accepting jiu-jitsu for jiu-jitsu's sake. Does that make sense so far? Feel different? You have to be better. So then that takes me on to Turtle, Running Man, and anyone who's seen Charles Harriott over the past few months has been playing something really fun. Basically like a modified high Running Man with a flared elbow. Did he do that with you guys on his little tour around Cologne and stuff? No. This. Awesome. So we'll still do a bit of that, just because it's a lot of fun. So we'll do regular Running Man first, Running Man to toe, and then we'll go into Charles's new baby and see what he's doing with that. It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is utterly brilliant. Yeah, so regular Running Man, obviously if you've played with any of us over the past 5 years would know. Bottom leg, 9 degrees, top leg, either stack knees if I don't want to have to get a cradle, or open if I want more pressure into my arm. All I'm going to do is turn to toe. It makes more sense if he's on my shoulders because my hips are free. As in there's no weight on my hips, I'm just going to square him to the ground. So he's moved up top, allows me to come up. Make sense? Take 2 minutes, like if that. So here his weight's on my shoulders, so he's attacking my shoulders. His weight's not on my legs. I can either just turn or run and turn. Okay? 2 minutes. So I'm playing more of this. I want to go on to this next part. So if their weight is on, however, on my hips, I can't run. So Charles managed to weaponize it, which is goddamn amazing. So third Naki past my guard, he just attacks my legs and he holds my hips down. Now I could go just play normal Running Man and go and wait for him to let go of my legs for me to go to Turtle, because now he's moved up north, now I can go. But if he stays on my legs, again, I can stand up if I want to. If I can move, I can stand up. So the position that, again, full credit to Charles, is a reverse collar tie. So I'm not going up here and holding onto his head, because if he circles around the back, I literally get Americana'd, and that's not fun. I'm going to do hand down, elbow flared, hand facing towards me, and I'm going to push. So there's 2 fingers worth over the top of his shoulder. I'm just going to push him down towards my hips. Here. And now it becomes a game of, if I can feel pressure, I can just move away from him. So it's kind of like old Hibera Running Man out here, instead of arm underneath. And I'm going to go that way. So if Naki's pushing towards me, I'm just going to keep trying to get my head higher than his and walking over there. So my arm stays up, pushing in towards his neck and shoulder. I'm not using the rest of my arm. It's literally that 2-finger sweet spot again, about here, is digging into his shoulder. If I push my arm outwards, he can then slip and bad things come my way. My arm stays flared, pushing over the top of his shoulder. If he tries to circle around to my back, I can just track. If he decides to come around forwards, I can change and start to put him down. So that's why I keep the arm down for this first part. You can't go underneath my shoulder. You can't. If he tries to attack underneath my arm, here, he sets himself up for an arm drag. There's not a lot he can do with this flared arm. And also it's going to make it harder for him to control up here, because the amount of space I'm now taking up is a lot wider because my arm is flared. You can't go for the Dagestani handcuff because my arm is too far away. And if he pushes in towards me, I can just try and control me, hold my hips. I can just move away and keep getting up until I'm back up again. The more he pushes me, the more I go up. So he's past my guard, I turn to Running Man, except he hasn't gone north. Arm stays low, arm stays flared towards the shoulder. Again, just a little bit over the top, and now I can just keep standing up. So feel this position first. This part, driving into the trap. It's not fun in the slightest. You don't want to push forwards at this point. I want to stay completely right angled to him as well. Like, if he is allowed to circle around to my back and I don't deal with it, now this shit's gonna happen, now it's not fun. If he circles around to my front and I don't deal with it, he's just gonna put me back on my back and the whole thing's falling apart. So I have to kind of use this sensitively to try and track where he goes. So if he moves forwards, I track. If he moves behind me, I track. So I always stay right angled to his body. Make sense? I don't let him come up north, so I'm using my shoulders to drive down here. So try and do stuff, and just track. So all you're going to do is this first part, just feel that pressure against you, and you're just going to track with this elbow and keep it right angles to them. And no matter where they go, you go. So like this, go. So track. And if he pushes in towards me, I can bottom leg out. Does that make sense? And just stand up. Off you go. So a bit more context, because you've already had questions. What if they try and arm drag you? If they try and arm drag you, they've released pressure. So it's only useful if Naki is driving in towards me. If he releases my hips for a second to like arm drag me or anything, I can just go back to guard. It's only if he's actively driving into my legs and I can't square up to him again. If I can square up to him, just square up to him. Like, he isn't doing anything to me. I wish I can stand up anyway. If he postures himself back up, so if I'm doing this, he's driving towards me, and then he decides to not drive, hit him. Like, that's legit. Like, first time I've met Oliver Tarza, that's literally the first sweep he ever hit on me, is I was kneeling, trying to pass his butterfly, and he just went, legit. Like, there you go, 2 points. I think it's 2 points. Really? Like, yeah, as a sweep.
Okay, cool.
So if someone does posture up, just hit them. And so going back to the what if they arm drag? Well, exactly, that's what. So if he's driving towards me, I have to constantly be moving away. If he releases the pressure for a second, there's nothing there. I can just square up again. So there shouldn't be a moment where you do get arm dragged because you can square back up. If he escapes my arm properly and gets past it and goes north, now I can go back to this. And if he's north enough, his weight's off my hips, I can turn. But if he decides to go back down south to control my hips, I can just come back up. So either he's south of my shoulder or north of my shoulder. If he's south of my shoulder, I can stand up. If he's north of my shoulder, I can come down and then come out the back door anyway. Does that make sense? So 3 options. Either there is medium pressure that allows me to do this stand up. There's too much pressure where he goes over the top of my shoulder and I go back to hiding in traditional running man. I just go to turtle. Or they reverse back down again and I either get this or square up to guard. Does that make sense? So no pressure. I'm back. Medium pressure. I can keep moving away. Over the top of my shoulder pressure, I can drop. Does that make sense? So feel those 3 parts. Make sense? So you're pretty much just feeling what their pressure is. If it's too much and it goes over the top of you, onto your shoulders, just go traditional and run out the back door. If there's medium pressure and it's on your hips, frame, bottom leg out. Or if they release the pressure entirely, just square up. Then hit him. Off you go, feel it, steel. I'll do the actual session Charles did because then you can book him. But suffice to say that if that person's delivering pressure in towards me as well, I have options to sweep them, which goes back to exactly what we did at the beginning, is that trying to hit a scissor sweep on someone who is postured, it doesn't happen. Like, nothing's gonna happen. But if he delivers forward pressure towards me, like if he starts driving towards me, now his hips are off his heels, now he's easier to sweep. Same butterfly sweeps. If I just hit my static, like I'm going to turn my sphincter. But if he's pushing towards me, now I have the option of taking it. But I can either make him come towards me by pulling him, doesn't make sense, or I try and stand up. Because as you saw earlier, if I want to stand up, he's got to move in on me and to hold me down. At which point, I can send him wherever I want. Does that make sense? So going back to like a half butterfly kind of motion, is your partner's going to, you're going to sit in a half butterfly, my foot in, one butt cheek down, and you're going to stand up. And your partner's going to stop you. If they manage to stop you, see if you can hit them with a sweep. Does that make sense? So I'm going to sit here, and I'm going to try and stand up. He's going to try and stop me. Try and stop me. And send them over the top. Okay? So you've got options. Either stand up or sweep them. Off you go. From a half butterfly. And so let's issue the folks in the corner. So, purpose of that part of the drill there, like you may hit sweeps, you may not hit sweeps, but you're more likely to hit those sweeps when the other person's trying to chase you down and puts himself off balance. Trying to hit someone who's complete static, you're not going to get anything. But hitting someone whilst they're in motion, now there's a chance. So you're either going to hit something on them, sweep, submission, they're off balance either way, or you're going to stand up. You have choices. And if their weight goes too high and tries to hold your shoulders down, just roll to turtle anyway, because they're not on your hips anymore. Problem comes, like I saw over there, is if they're holding onto your legs and you've got a butterfly. So Naki's holding my hips down, and he's sucked himself in here that I can't now stand up or feel pressure off him. At this point I have to make him chase again. From here what I can do is I can't lift him, obviously, but with my shins in his legs, as long as I can get my feet towards the floor, or on the ground itself, I can move over here and just sit up. So I'm just going to drive off him and sit up. So hold on to my legs, like put a lot of pressure in. I'm not going to be able to move him, but I may be able to move me. Whoever's the smallest mass moves. So hold on, hold on, hold on. So I'm just kicking my shins into his thighs and just sitting upright. At which point, he's now going to have to start chasing again because there's space. So, go. And I bottom leg him again. If he chases me down, we'll go over. Make sense? Feel it? Feel that tight butterfly? That even if they're barreling towards your legs and hold you down, as long as your heels can hit the floor, just kicking towards them, make them chase. And as soon as they start chasing again, come up. And if they really come towards you, send them over. Put these ideas into practice with like a low level sparring. I say low level, it's going to get fucking wild. In the person on the floor, so one person starting guard, one person in whatever guard you wish. If there are subs, catch and release, show them where they could have come from, but try and just stand up or hit sweeps or try and get on top. Person on top, stay on top. So heist the bottom leg out as much as you can if you feel like you are getting swept. Keep your hips above theirs no matter what. Person on the bottom, get up, stand up. See how easy it is to stand up, if you can stand up. And if you can't stand up, sweep them. Make sense? So I'm not really changing much. There hasn't been much in the way of technique. It's definitely a mindset change. And see how much that already warps your jiu-jitsu and how you interpret it, because hopefully it'll be a lot different than 50 minutes ago. Make sense? So one person to start in any guard you wish, person on top, try and pass, get to a dominant position, person on the bottom, get up, get on top, off you go. Get up, get up. Don't fall over, keep on top, keep your hips higher. Yeah. If you're getting rolled, catch your bottom leg out, stay on top. It should be nigh on impossible to sweep you. Catch your bottom leg, catch your bottom leg, catch your bottom leg. Get up.
Oh my god.
Different? A little bit different? Everyone, because that's a 5-minute round, everyone's really sweaty really fast. Exactly, but as I said, there hasn't really been much in the way of technique there that you could do, that's added to your game. Just by saying, you ever thought about being on top? And you're like, oh, interesting, revolutionary. Or like not rolling over. And all of a sudden everyone's standing up, like actually holding someone down. A lot of the atypical jiu-jitsu that we use, like this, posturing, like the only person I saw posture just was you, and one of you went flying. Because the second one of you went upright, the other person just went and like just threw you over. No one postured, which is hilarious. We're literally going straight back into wrestling again. Also, like again, since this whole flared running man, pulling that really early has been a lot of fun. As if anyone tries to like pass guard in our gym, literally just headbutt them in the elbow them in the head and just stand up anyway. Which I saw then, the amount of people letting their guard kind of get turned and then just hitting them in the shoulders and then going upright. It was a lot of fun to watch. Any questions on any of that? Has it made sense? No? Something to change, something to maybe play when you're at home is just have that idea. Unless you've got plans of staying on your back. Actually, no, forget that. So it was an interesting one. So the reason this kind of came about is, if you think of as much as a dirty word as it is, the IBJJF, and their point system is based on whoever's on top, which is, I think, to my knowledge, based on who would have got punched the most. Because the only way of scoring points is off your back is by sweeping the other person and getting on top anyway. But all the points necessarily are based on who's on top and who can deliver the most punches-ish. It's not correct, as in close guard, you could definitely deliver some blows. But by and large, that was their kind of logic. But fuck wrestlers. So being on your back doesn't make much sense. Being able to get upright makes the most sense. Being able to stand up. And so we started playing this in our gym. We started to basically just say, right, whoever scores points first wins. And people also already starting to like fight tooth and nail to get upright. I realized it's something that me and Naki were doing anyway. Neither of us wanted to do the person on top, and so we'd fight tooth and nail to either get upright or stay on top. And then codifying this in the way of training it. I think we did like over 100 rounds in one evening of this kind of situational sparring, of stay on top, keep your hips higher than the other person. I think in over 100 rounds, I think we managed to score about 3 sweeps in 100 rounds of sparring, which says something. Like all of a sudden, just with that slight mindset change of, no, you keep your bottom leg heisted out and you keep your hips facing towards the floor. Sweeps died, and maybe suddenly think, right, we suck at sweeps, or how many times were we hitting sweeps and they were false positives. And so I wanted to say to people after that, right, okay, play on your back if you want, if you've got something to work on, etc. And then within a night, I changed my mind completely. I went, fuck you all. No, because then I don't want more false positives. How many times have you hit a sweep and the other person just rolled onto their back because they thought, oh, I want to play leg locks today? Fuck that. Like, because the last thing you want is to then build up those false positives, thinking that you're getting better at sweeps when in fact you aren't. The other person just rolls over for you. Fuck the lot of you. Like, I'm going to stand up no matter what. You have to get better at sweeping. So don't go home and think, oh, some days I'm just going to play on my back. Like, no, because then you're giving your partners a false sense of security. You're giving them a false positive. Make them earn it. Otherwise, the training's pointless. Does that make sense? So hopefully take this session and fuck the rest of your training partners. They have to earn it now. Like, stand up all the time. And if you put on your back, stand up again.